Well, this video is more for my benefit than anyone else's because I have a very short memory, it seems, these days. So I thought I'd go through what I had done so that when I need to do it again I can refresh my memory. So this is the Hornet 900, which I'm working my way through it and checking everything. No rush because I'm not going to tax this one until May, so that allows me to have a bike until the end of November on the 6-month system. The Blackbird over there is ready to go. She's taxed and MOT'd. I can use that one till the end of October. So anyway, I took this cover off to check the air filter, and while I was doing it I thought to myself, I've got a job to do on a friend's Hornet, and that is to replace the regulator rectifier. So I thought I'll take it off and see if it can be done reasonably easily without stripping too much off the bike, because when I fitted the regulator rectifier on this one, the whole of the back end was missing because I got the whole lot in bits. And anyway, I did achieve it with a bit of fiddling, and this is just really for me to remember the way to do it when the time comes for me to fit one for my chum. The bike came with a perfectly good rectifier, but it also came with another one as a spare, and the only way I can ever test reg rectifiers is to fit them, because I don't have the test equipment to do it any other way. So I had taken off the old one and replaced it with the one that came with this bike, and sure enough it was okay, and so I left it, and the other one is okay, so it can be reused. The rectifier is just here, and it sits up under the mud guard, and this is a tricky bit to try and sort of see everything. You can see the fins there, so it's in the airstream to keep cool, and the hugger protects it from too much rubbish. There are two nuts to undo there. They go onto studs, so it's quite easy to locate this when you're putting it back on. But I found the only way to get into those two nuts was to find a suitable socket system, and I've got this old small set, and I found that worked an absolute treat. So it's a standard 10mm socket, but it's small, so you can actually get it up under there onto the nuts and zip them off and put them back on, of course. So that's an easy part. The next thing is to remove this cylinder, which is that's an oil container for the suspension unit. There's a cable runs a pipe runs to the top of the suspension unit, so that's part of the damping system. So there's a nice little stainless steel clip here, and I found that if you take the whole thing off, in other words undo it fully and carefully remove it, then you can take that away and just leave it lying. You've already got this bit off, as I say, with 3 screws. On this side you then need to undo that one there, which will release the tray. I didn't want to take any of this off, any of the fairing. It was all off when I fitted it originally, so it was an awful lot easier. So that one off, and the same on the other side. Obviously the covers have been removed, and then you've got the 2 plugs, and they are well, one of them is massive. So under that rubber cover there is a plug and socket, and that's the culprit really for making it difficult. So obviously you undo that one, and there's another one under here. That one's quite straightforward. When that's removed, it's easy to get to. So then you have to think about getting that big plug through that gap, because there are the two cables and there's not much room. So you've got to make room, and that's why I'm doing this, so I don't forget how to do it. So first thing is, I took that electrical component off, just one little stud there, took that and dropped it away. Then this is the expansion box for the for the cooling system, the expansion chamber. So just undo that one, and that will be loose. Can't really remove it unless you take an awful lot of stuff off, and I didn't want to do that. So you've got both of those off, so you've got flexibility with the under tray. You've got that off, you've got that loose, you've got that removed. You don't need to touch anything other than that little button. It's got one of these little typical Honda plastic buttons there. I took that one out to give me a little bit of flexibility. And the key to it then, I found, was to remove the top connector to the suspension unit. Now it's a socket. When you've got this out of the way, it's easy to see. It's a socket on this side and a large nut on the other side, just at the top there. And that's easy enough to do, providing the pin's been well lubed, which mine was. So take the nut off the other side and then push through the connector. Obviously I'm assuming that you're on the center stand at this point. Once you've taken that top pin out from the suspension unit, you get your trusty jack, and you can then jack the system up, and you'll find that the top connector moves forward about 1/4 of an inch, which allows the overflow, the expansion tank rather, to move forward 1/4 of an inch. And once you've done that, you can actually get the plug through. Now what I did is take off the smaller of the two plugs, and you can get that through quite readily. And then you've got this cover. So I slid that cover all the way up to the top and pushed that through first, bearing in mind that you've got the rectifier loose at that point. And then all you've got to do then is get that large plug through that gap. And because the suspensions move forward, you can move that forward, and you can just get it through. Easy enough to get out, and you just pull it through, but getting it back is a tad more difficult. So what I did, obviously I wanted to get the large connector through first, so I fed it through, and the cables are at the top of the regulator rectifier, and you'll see that when you drop it. You can get it into some sort of position with your fingers, and then I use some long nose pliers to get hold of the side of the connector, and with great care, because you don't want to break the plastic, you can wiggle it through that tiny gap. Once you've got that through, you can then get the plastic cover, slide the plastic cover up and push that through. Again, you can use your long nose pliers to help get it out. Pull it through. Getting the smaller plug through is a piece of cake. So that's about it. All you have to do then is reverse the procedure. You can use the jack to just drop the suspension slightly, and you'll find that the top connector will slide back and line up, and then you can just get the pin through, connect up, connect the electricals up, and put stuff back together. Now I took stuff off that I didn't need to, which is why I'm doing this, because I can then remember the bits that I need to remove if I need to do it either on this bike or another. I know I've got to do it on my mate's bike, because he's not really in a position to health-wise to do it for himself, so I wanted an easy way to do it without dropping wheels out, without taking fairings off, and it worked. So the bike's reconnected. A few minor jobs to do before the end of the month, but nothing much. Just I mean, it's a very old bike, it's got over 50,000 on it. You expect it to be a little bit ribby in places, but it's remarkably good because it's a Honda, of course. I've checked some electrical connections and one or two other things and found some bits and pieces, all my own fault, of course. One or two little dodgy connections, but everything else at the moment seems to be in good order. So there we are. That's how I removed and replaced the regulator rectifier without having to strip everything to the last nut and bolt.